Yeah, Duncan mentioned patience. In the Sanskrit group, we're dealing with, we're looking at chapter 6 of the Bodhicharyavatara, which is the chapter on its kshanti in Sanskrit, kanti in Pali, which there's more patience that has more of a sense of long suffering. The kshanti is not so much the patience of having to wait in a long queue or something. It's the patience of being slow to react with anger when people do nasty things to you. So patience, I think, would have been a good broad word in the English sense for the situation that Duncan has described. But it was, but Kanti in its broader sense, I assure you that nobody was attempting to do anything nasty to us in this long wait. So let me just reorganize myself. We were looking. I was going to look up one word. Somebody asked, I forget who it was, whether the word bud, as in the bud of a flower, has anything to do with Bud awakening. I've done what I can to check, and it seems not. Alas, it would be a jolly nice idea if it were, but it seems not to be. And it could be cognate with the Germanic beutel, meaning a pod or a little bag or something like that. But it is sadly of uncertain etymology. So let me just call up the. Oh, sorry, I've lost something off my screen. Just calling it back up. Mangala Sutta. Here we are. And I'm just about to share screen with you now. Screen one share. Sorry about this usual palaver. Right, you should all be able to see now. Mangala Sutta, verse 4. So, if I remember correctly, we were just going to complete this one. I think we'd been through the analysis of it, and we were just any further recitations and any queries. So is there anybody here who did not have a chance to recite it last time and would like to do so this time? I see no hands or just gestures. I saw two hands there from Mariano. Okay, right. So I'll just recite it through slowly first. Patirupadesa vasocha pubbecha katapunyata attasamma pranidhicha etam mangalam uttamang.
Patirupadesha vasocha pubbecha katapunyata attasamma panidhicha etamangala uttamang. There you go.
There we go. Did you spot that? Did anyone else spot, and did Mariano himself spot, where he accidentally slipped into the Sanskrit pronunciation of a particular word? Who spotted that?
Panidhicha.
Yes, Simon did.
Desha?
Desha. Yeah, Desha. It was an easy mistake to make, as we all know the word from the name Bangladesh, which is the modern pronunciation Bangladesha. Okay, thank you, Simon. Well spotted, Simon. So before we move on then to the Dhammapada 9-8, are there any further recitations and any further comments or queries?
I want to recite.
Please, Sri Anamala, it's funny you should say that, because I was just about to say, before we move on, I was going to ask you anyway to hear the,
Okay.
the lovely Sri Lankan version. So let me just enlarge it a bit more on the screen. Here we are. Please then go ahead, Sri Anamala.
Patirupa desavaso cha pumbe cha katapunyata atta samma panidi cha etam mangalamuttamang.
Yeah, jolly good, lovely. Anyone want to follow that? Come on, somebody try and beat that. Actually, before we move on, I love these versions from all over the world. We've had the La Scala di Milano, we've had Mariana's version, we've had Sri Nimala. Can we just have a Burmese version before we move on? Come on, Sanyu. Please be so kind, out of your generosity, to give us the dana of a Burmese chant of it.
Do I read from there? Can I read from the Burmese writing, which is a little bit different from that?
Yeah, which you read from whichever text you want. What,
Yes.
as a matter of interest, what text are you using?
The text is written in Burmese, but some sounds are a little bit different.
Actually,
So
that'll make
I
it
will do it both. I will do it in Burmese first, and then I'll read it out.
wonderful. Please do. Please do.
So I find the text, my text, where is it?
And I
Okay.
think in Burmese, you sometimes pronounce the s as a th, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Do it whichever way you like. Do it as, for example, we might hear it if we were hearing this being chanted in a Burmese temple.
Okay. Patirupa desa, no, Patirupa, I start again.
Please.
Patirupa deta wato sa, Pobisa kata ponyata, Adatama panimisa, Eta mingala motama. This is what we used to recite in Burmese.
Okay, right.
Yes. And then I read it out on this one.
That's fine.
Okay. Patirupa desa vasocha, Popecha kata punyata, Atta sama paniticha, Etam mangalam motamam.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanyu. Right, so unless there's any more on this, we can move on to the Dhammapada. Okay. Here we go then. 9-8. So Vani Jova Bhayam Maggam Appasatho Mahadhanu Visanjivitukamova Papani Parivarjaye. I'll read through it once more. Vani Jova Bhayam Maggam Appasatho Mahadhanu Visanjivitukamova Papani Parivarjaye. In this verse, we have two similes operating in parallel. First of all, let's look at the main verb, parivarjaye. Let me call up my own notes. Here we are. Ooh. There we go. Parivajjaye, vrij, the root vrij, I've made a note on this, means to twist or to bend or to turn. And with the prefix peri, peri meaning around, is cognate with the Greek peri, meaning around as in perimeter, pericardium, around. The perimeter, Pali and Sanskrit parimana, means that which measures around. And we develop mettam aparimanam, literally unperimetered metta, metta with no perimeter, no bounds to it, no measure around it, it's boundless. So parivajjaye, so literally to bend around something. So you avoid it, you see it there and you avoid it, step around it. Not to be confused with the very similar root vraj. Let me just call up. I'm just trying to call up iPad. So we've got that's vrij and vraj. They can get confused. There have probably been many instances in the literature where they have been confused. But remember, to vrij, to turn away, avoid. Vraj means to go or to proceed. Many of you will be familiar with the pabajja and pabajjito. Pabajja, the going forth, and pabajjita, one who has gone forth. There's some vraj, incidentally. Oops, sorry. What's happened here? This vraj. We use almost the same in English, don't we, via Latin, from the root verg. Now, we have, in modern English, we have to diverge and to converge. To diverge, two things diverging, or you diverge from a line. You're moving away from it. Two things converging, moving together. So let us invent a new English word, to proverge. Okay, it doesn't exist in English, we're inventing it now. You proverge means you go forth. So in Sanskrit, and then I'll do it in Pali, it's pra, forth, vraj, the root vraj, to go, and this is this particular one makes a verbal noun by adding ya, so pravrajya, the going forth. And that is the one that in Pali becomes pabajja. And one who has gone forth, a very common word in the scriptures, is a pabajjita. Pabajjita. In English, with our newly invented word, one who has proverged. Yes, Mariano.
Nothing to do with verses or something along those lines, or is it? Does it come from a different root?
Verse.
Verses, vertere.
That is yet another root, vrit.
It is vrit. Okay.
Vrit, yes, but the vrit is the same as the Latin vert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yes, so we have the vraj and the vrit both exactly reflected in Latin as the verg and the vert roots. So you are right about that. Simon, please.
Yeah, nothing to do with the Pali really, but just the the verge bit. Until we came to the cathedral, I hadn't heard it used as a verb. But my wife is verged into her seat by the verger, which I suppose is the same thing. They actually talk about I am verging the bishop.
Oh, really? Goodness me. So it's actually used as a verb then.
Yeah.
In the context of moving people to their correct seats.
That's what a verger does, yeah.
Ah, I hadn't realized that. That all makes sense now. So there we are within the Church of England, where we're actually using this word as a proper verb, very much the same as it would have been in Sanskrit and Pali. Yeah, excellent. Thanks for telling us that, Simon. Another invented word I had, just proverge. The other invented word, one of my favorite invented words, is in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and this comes back to Mariano's point about the vrit and the Latin vert. So vartana means turning, pravartana, Pali pavattana, means setting something in motion, turning it forward. The Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta is the sutta of the turning of the wheel of the law. And that pavattana in Sanskrit is pravartana. Now we can have to divert, to convert. Let us invent the new word to provert. In other words, to move something towards, to turn it forwards. So Dharmachakra Pravartana, the sutta of the proverting of the wheel of the law.
Advert is another one, isn't it?
Advert, to turn your mind towards something, or to turn somebody's mind towards you. Yes, so an advertisement, something that directs or attracts people's minds towards your whatever it is that you're advertising or adverting their minds to. And to pervert, for example, pervert the course of justice, turning it sideways, turning it away from its proper course. So here, let's get back to parivajjaye, meaning to avoid. And this is there is no named subject here. There's no specific subject of that verb that's named. It often happens when we see a general moral exhortation expressed in the optative parivajjaye. It's just directed to everyone. Let one turn away. Parivajjaye, very common in the scriptures in Pali and Sanskrit. The use of the third person optative as a general moral instruction addressed to everyone. It takes a direct object, and the direct object is papani, acts of evil, often loosely translated as sins, but any acts of evil. Don't quite like the use of the word sins. There's something, resonances from, many of us will have resonances from our early Christian upbringing. You see, in the Roman Catholic Church, there's a lot of discussion. You want to do something that you knew was a bit naughty. And then the discussion, either internally or with others, is this actually a sin? Is it defined as a sin? And since I had 7 years with Jesuits, I became quite mentally agile at kind of arguing myself. No, well, it's not actually a sin, you see. Well, you can't do that. Within the Buddhist doctrine, you've got much more of a, much more of a genuine, much more of a moral thing. So a papa isn't something that's exactly defined as a sin, as the Roman Catholics have brought, either is or isn't, pretty much a binary thing. But it's a kind of a deviation. You have to look more at what is kusala and akusala, more of a moral sense of what is right and wrong. And that, of course, is how oops, sorry, what I'm doing here. That is how papa is generally used. And as I say, often translated as sin, but it's broader than that. So, papani parivajjaye, let one avoid evil, acts of evil. So, how, in what way, what is the simile here? There are two similes you see twice in, let me call up the text again. Here, va, there, where I've highlighted on the screen, and equally va, there. In Sanskrit, oops, somebody's trying to get in. In Sanskrit, it is iva. In Pali, it can be iva, but it's usually shortened to va. Just as, for example, api is always api in Sanskrit, but in Pali it can be either api or just pi. And the same indeed for iti. Iti is us. In Sanskrit, always iti, but in Pali it can be either ti, iti, or ti. And if it begins a sentence in Pali, it has to be iti. Iti piso bhagava. So you couldn't say tiso, it has to be the full form at the beginning of it. Iti piso. So Vanijova. So Vanija is a merchant. So Vanijova, like a merchant. Yeah, welcome, Christine. We have the word in as a surname in modern India. Some of you may be familiar with the surname Banerjee as an Indian surname, Banerjee. It's from that root. It means merchant. So Vanija, Vanijova, just like a merchant. Bhayamagam apasato mahadhano. So Vanijova, like a merchant, parivajjaye. By the way, this parivajjaye operates with three subjects. The same verb does serve, so just as a merchant avoids a dangerous route, just as jivitukamo, just as somebody who wants to live avoids poison, in that way, papani parivajjaye, let one avoid. So this parivajjaye is the verb describing what the merchant is doing, what the jivitukama, the one who desires to live, is doing, and what generally we all ought to do. So, Vanijova parivajjaye bhayamagam, just like a merchant who would avoid, put in the octative, just generally would avoid, bhayamagam, a dangerous route, apasatho mahadhano. These two words are in the nominative, and so qualify Vanijo, just as a merchant, apasato mahadhano, with a small caravan, been traveling in a small group, but carrying mahadhano with much wealth. So just as a merchant who hasn't got many people around him to protect him, who's got a lot of valuable stuff on him, will avoid a dangerous road. Visam jivitukamova parivajjaye. So jivitukama. This is a construction mark. Well, you'll see this quite often. We've got the root jiv, to live. We have the infinitive jivitum, jivitum. And we have the word kama, meaning desire. Now, a very common construction one who desires to live, drop off the M, and I put in the nominative singular form. Jivitukamo is one who has a desire to live. And that's what we see in this text, jivitukamo. It can be this construction using the infinitive, but losing the M at the end of it, followed by kama. You can use it with any verb. If you can simply, if you say, I feel like going, you can say you feel gantukamo, wanting to go. If you want to do a practice as a meditator, you might be bhavitukamo, desiring to do a bhavana. It can be used with freely with any infinitive.
Can I ask whether it happens in Sanskrit as well, and whether the M drops there, or whether it is changed to a name, maybe, or
no, it operates in the same way in Sanskrit.
okay.
And in fact, I'm going to give you a little explanation now that you have raised the point.
Yeah, because I don't understand why they drop it. It sounds almost better if there is a nasal there.
I hope within the course of the next couple of minutes to persuade you otherwise, to persuade all of you. And I'm going now, to get the full explanation of this, we have to go back to Vedic. Now, as we all know, this ending tum, oops, sorry, my pencil's gone funny. Come on.
Are you showing the notepad?
I am, sorry, thank you. So this ending tum, sometimes, itum, makes no meaning difference to the meaning. Sometimes the e is phonetically inserted. This ending tum, all of the grammars, most of the grammars will say, well, that's the infinitive ending. Okay, so far so good. But let's carry it back 1,000 years, back to Vedic. Now, what happens in Vedic? In Vedic, you have a noun ending in tu, which is the Vedic way, one of the ways in Vedic of making a verbal noun generally, and it's an ordinary verbal noun. So the act of living, just living, would be jivitu. As you might say, you have a jivitau chanda, it fully declines like any other noun. It doesn't, that form of the noun dropped out in classical Sanskrit, leaving only tum. But this ending tum, all it is actually is the accusative of the old Vedic verbal noun ending in tu. I want to live. Jivitum ichami. But I'm doing this for the sake of life, in order to live. Jivitave karumi, jivitave. So it declines fully like a noun in Vedic, but in classical Sanskrit, it only the tum remains, and the grammars that don't go into the history of it will just say that's the infinitive ending. Now, we want to make a compound word of it, so what do? Jivitukamo. Now, are we all persuaded, including Mariano, that it's now a compound noun that reflects the way that it was done in Vedic? Incidentally, you will see in Pali, but no longer in Sanskrit, an ending tave, which is the old Vedic dative. And that is the same. The tum is the Vedic accusative of the verbal noun. Tave is the Vedic dative of the verbal noun. So in order to do something. I know I can't remember which verse, but earlier in the Dhammapada, I think Papan was something pahatave. Paha, to abandon, pahatum, to abandon, pahatave, for the sake of abandoning. So this is just, it's useful to know that this was an old Vedic verbal noun. So, back to where were we? Here we are. So, visa, in Sanskrit, visha just means poison. So, jivitu kamo iva, just as the person who desires to live, visam parivajjaye, avoids poison. So here we are. Just like the merchant with a small caravan but much wealth, a dangerous road, no verb yet. Just as the person who desires to live, poison, no verb yet, no verb yet. Papani parivajjaye, let one avoid poison. So you see this verb, I hope you've all got this now, the parivajjaye applies to people generally and to the merchant, just like the merchant does, just like the person who doesn't want to die does. So we should all avoid papani, acts of evil.
James,
Please, Simon, yes.
could you explain the form of the optative there, the parivajjaye? Is it just an irregular form? Because normally it would be, the standard one would be eya rather than aye. Is that like a form of the causative, like he would cause to avoid, like parivajjayati, with just the short form e on the end? Because I can't find it in Perniola where he gets,
this one, as I've done in my note here, in Pali used as a class 10 verb, parivajjeti. In Sanskrit, it would be parivarjayati, and the optative would be parivarjayet in Sanskrit. So this is parivarjaye would be a normal class 10 optative form, which is in Pali.
So it's just the e after an aya in effect.
Yes, because I don't think in the class 10, I don't think Pali has parivarjayeya. It possibly could, but I'm not sure if it does in fact. But parivarjaye, I'll need to look this up again. But to my ear, that sounds as a perfectly normal way of expressing the optative of a class 10 verb.
Okay.
Parivarjaye. But I will actually make a note to double check on it.
Can I suggest another thing, another possible little triple meaning here? With regard to the merchant, the varnija, okay, they often, it goes with the satta, you know, he has a caravan. It could also mean satta is also a sword, and I'm thinking,
yes,
lightly armed, you know, poor chap's only got the small weapons, so to speak.
Yeah, nice one, Simon. The answer is yes, it could.
And also it occurred to me, satta is also the kind of a science or a teaching. So could it mean like a person who hasn't quite learned his trade yet? He's a tyro. He's set out without a lot of knowledge how to conduct this caravan business with a small sword and few horses or camels or whatever they had. So
a small caravan, lightly armed and a bit ignorant about what he's doing anyway.
Yeah. One of those.
Nice one, Simon. The answer is yes, they could all work. They could all work. That's quite interesting there. Let me just, for those who haven't followed, let me just show you the a satta. So there's the Sanskrit word artha, which in Pali becomes atta. which means an objective or a goal, is from the root ri, meaning to go. Just as it's the verbal noun ending in ta or ata, as we have, for example, shamata in Pali, samata. So it can either just the ta or the ata. So here, ri with guna artha means where you're going, your destination. We have it in the Karanem, as Karanem atta kusalena, one who is skilled in the goal. And so a caravan, oh, sorry, a bit of trouble with my iPad here. Artha, having an objective, with a goal, which in Sanskrit becomes sartha, and that becomes, of course, in Pali, satta. Sorry, my iPad's playing up. So artha, having a goal, so a group that have a common objective, and that word has just come to mean caravan, like a group of people traveling as a unit with a common goal to protect themselves on the way, and the goal of reaching their destination safely. That's one word meaning satta. One meaning of satta. There's also the root shas in Sanskrit, meaning to cut, and with the suffix tra, meaning an implement for doing something, a shastra is a cutting implement, but then by extension specifically a sword or a bladed weapon, a sharp bladed weapon. And shastra, of course, becomes, do you know what's happening to my iPad? Sorry. Also becomes, sorry, it's not, why is it doing this to me? Won't even let me rub out. Sorry about that. I just don't know what's happening. So satta. So there's this inherent ambiguity there, which wouldn't exist in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, unambiguously, sartha or shastra. And the other one that Simon mentioned is a root, this shas. Remember, don't confuse these. Shas means to cut, shath means to teach. And so a shastra it's in the Hindu literature, the shastra, literally kind of teaching aid, educational aids. The shastras are the secondary texts to enable people to understand the Vedas. So they are the, as it were, teaching to the shastra, teaching tools. And again, in Pali, that becomes satta. So they've got this ambiguity in Pali, which would be avoided in Sanskrit. Sartha, shastra, shastra, all unambiguous in Sanskrit, but can be confused in Pali. So this ambiguity can have two effects. One of them can be, you just don't know what it's meant to mean. Which is it? That's the bad bit of it, or the unhelpful bit of it. But the good bit is that the text now can bear more than one meaning at the same time, as Simon has pointed out. And here we've got a wonderful situation where the text can bear three meanings simultaneously. And the native hearer might say, well, it's one or the other, but all three would resonate in the minds of the native speaker at the same time. And incidentally, in Sanskrit, a teacher, sorry, iPad playing up. Yes, there's a new page. See what happens on a new page. There we are. A Shasta, as the Shasta, Shastaram, is a teacher. And in Pali, that becomes a Satta. Purisadhamma Sarati Satta Deva Manusanam. Satta, the teacher of gods and men. So here we are. Thank you for that, Simon. We have this interesting point here that we have all three meanings can be held in the mind at the same time. I just want to point out here, Mahadhano. Why is the double? Shouldn't it be Mahadhano? Answer is normally yes, and in Sanskrit it would Mahadhano and Mahadhano, both correct in Pali. In Sanskrit only Mahadhano. Sometimes Pali is so used to doubling things, sometimes you double things even when there's no etymological justification for it. For example, Mahapala, great fruit, meaning bearing great fruit, very fruitful, useful. And in Pali it can be Mahapala, but there's no etymological justification for it. The Italians do it occasionally as well. Oh yes, Mariano, you do. You do occasionally double things where there's no etymological justification.
But in Veneto, it is the opposite. We drop all doubles, you see.
I'm so glad that you avoid the trap. But if, for example, in Latin, the republic is res publica with a single B. In standard Italian, repubblica with a double B. Now, there's no etymological justification. Mostly in Italian, there is an etymological reason for a doubling, but in a word like repubblica with a double B, there is not. So equally in Pali, sometimes you have Mahadhana, and just Pali slips into saying Mahadhana, like Mahapala, Mahapala. So don't fret over that. It's just a feature of Pali that will be allowed. And in fact, you can't say it's done for the meter because it's not, because Mahadhana and Mahadhana are both the same meter. Adha and Adha, they're both heavy syllables. Ad with a double. So it's not done for the meter, just done because they feel like it. Now, appa is an abbreviation of alpa, meaning little. So let me call up. In Sanskrit, alpa becomes appa. Be not confused, because for example, oh, sorry, my wretched iPad is playing up. Apramada in Sanskrit becomes appamada in Pali. So just remember, when you see this appa, it could reflect the Sanskrit apra or the Sanskrit alpa to appa. In fact, when I first saw in the Karane Metta Sutta the word appagabho, I thought appagabho, one of few wombs. Does that mean he doesn't come back to be reborn very often? No, it's apragalbho, means one who doesn't push himself forwards. You know, in the first line, I think it is of the Karane Metta Sutta.
Appagabbo, yeah.
Is
Yes.
apragalbho. This galb, which very entertainingly survives in the modern English word gallop. You know, to rush forward. Apragalbho. He doesn't gallop forward. In other words, he doesn't push himself to the front. That was the meaning of apagabhuda. So just beware here. We've dealt in this class with several cases of ambiguity in Pali arising out of the phonetic simplification. So I'll read it through once more, and then we can do some recitations of it. So Vani Juva Bhayam Maggam Appasatho Mahadhano Visam Jivitu Kamova Papani Parivajjaye. By the way, I should mention Bhaya cognate with the Greek the Greek root phobia, fear, and becomes pavor in Latin, paura, I think in Italian. And indeed, the English word fear comes that same root. The basic meaning of bhaya is fear. And there's the name abhaya, fearless. It also means that which one fears, namely a danger. And occasionally, as here, it's used as an adjective, meaning dangerous, something that will cause fear. So bhayam maggam, a dangerous way, a dangerous road.
Before I go, something came to mind, the spavaldo, which is the negative S, which is this, I suppose, and pavaldo. So it is someone who is fearless.
Spavaldo.
Yeah.
I hadn't known that was Spavaldo.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right. I'm going now. And
Okay, bye then.
until
Okay.
next time.
Okay, thank you, Mariano.
Thank you.
Bye. So let's do some recitations of this. I'll follow the order on screen, and so the first on my screen is Simon. So would you like to do a recitation for us?
Vani Jova Bayamagam Appasato Mahadhano Visang Jivitu Kamova Papani Parivajjaye.
That was faultless. Yes, very good indeed. Thank you, Simon. Judith, we're round to you.
Okay. Vani Jova Bayamagam Appasato Mahadano Visam Jivitu Kamova Papani Parivajjaye.
Imagine you're a Yorkshire lass, Judith, in the pronunciation of the okay. I might be very, very, very difficult. Okay, I withdraw that. But if you're making a bit of an English O there. Make it an O. Say Gamo.
Dano.
That's much better. So say Appasato.
Passato.
And also be careful where it's doubled to hold that doubling very distinctly. Appasato.
So.
Sorry, your sound failed for a moment. Can you say it again? Is it okay?
I'm sorry, I'm reading from the side. Have you got it on the screen, James?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, here we go. My mistake. Here we have this appasato here.
Appasato.
Appasato. Okay, that is better. Just remember that where it's doubled in Pali, where you see that doubling, it's actually very distinctly not appa but appa. Appasato. Okay, thank you, Judith. Keith, we're round to you.
Vani Jova Bayang Magang Appasato Mahadano visang jivitakamo va papani parivajaye.
Ah, almost perfect, but parivajaye. A short A and a double J. Parivajaye. Can you repeat the parivajaye?
Parivajaye.
That's better. But remember, never be shy about holding the double consonant. Parivajaye. Vajaye. Okay, thank you, Keith. Charlene, we're round to you.
Bani Jova Bayam Magam Apasato Mahadanu Visam Jivitu Kamo Papani Parivajaye.
Right. Can you just say Jivitu? Jivitu. The
Jivitu Kamo.
That's much better. Jivitu Kamo. That came out right. Okay, that was correct. Also, it's difficult for native English speakers, well, certainly native English speakers, save in some variety of speech. In Yorkshire, for example, is one they can do it. So, Papani.
Yeah, I know I made the mistake there. Papani.
That's much better. Yeah, the native English tends to pronounce with a p, with a puff of breath, which an Indian would hear as an aspirated p. So Papani. It's one of the difficult sounds for a native English speaker to master, but with practice it comes. So Papani Parivajaye. Okay, thank you, Charlene. Judy, we're round to you. You're muted, Judy. There we are.
Vani Jova Bayam Magang Apasato Mahadano Visam Jivitukamava Papani Parivajaye.
Ah, okay. Remember this O needs
Parivajaye.
Kamova. You see, Kamova.
Sorry, Kamova.
Yes, you pronounced it like a kind of a Russian surname. So
Oh, right.
Kamova. So
Kamova.
Jivitu Kamova. That's right. And
Kamova.
exactly so. And second, Parivajaye. Parivajaye.
Parivajaye.
That was you see, yes, that was very good indeed. Okay, thank you, Judy. We're on to Christine.
Vani Jova Bayamagam Apasato Mahadano Visam Divitu Kamova
Pani Parivajaye.
Divitu Kamova Papani Parivajaye.
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 Okay, you're correcting yourself. We've got this very efficient feedback loop going on here, Christine, and I see it acting very efficiently indeed. And your first pronunciation of Jivitu Kamova was again made it sound a bit like a Russian surname, but the second and third times round, very good indeed. Jivitu Kamova. And again, just for practice, pronounce this Apasato with a very distinct double p and double h.
Apasato.
Okay, right.
Apasato.
And also, I noticed you were you made that long there, and again, there's a temptation to do that mahadano.
Mahatano.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Christine. So next, then we are with Sanyu. Please come in.
Bani Jova Bayam Magam Apasato Mahadano Visam Jivitu Kamova Visam Jivitukhamova Papani Paribachaye.
Okay, yes, very nice indeed. And I love this kind of Burmese touch to the pronunciation. So after the Burmese, we will now have Sri Animala with a more Sri Lankan tone to it.
Yes. Wani Jova Bayan Maggang Appasatto Mahaddano Visangji Butu Kamo Papani Parivajjaye.
Yes, wonderful. So people might ask, well, which is correct? The Burmese one or the Sri Lankan one, or indeed the Thai one? The answer is, it's not a correct question to ask. We have these different traditions have arisen, and we can't say the one is more correct than the other. What I'm attempting to do when I pronounce it is to pronounce it as it would be, I've told you this before, as it would be pronounced in the birthplace of the Buddha, as close as we can get, and subject to the limitations of me being a native English speaker. But we've got these ancient, venerable traditions from Burma, Sri Lanka, Thailand, where their own slight variations of pronunciation have come. So they are all correct, all valid. So the answer is, who are you going to follow? Sanyu or Sri Nimala? The answer is, it's a matter of taste and style. They're all correct, and they're all very good examples of how it's pronounced. I think when the Thais pronounce it, their pronunciation is further away from the Indian than the Burmese or the Sri Lankan. But that's not to say it's wrong. And they've got an ancient and venerable way of pronouncing and chanting as well. So all equally valid. Just one thing I want to mention, a little point of grammar. Here we have the Bhayamagam Appasato. There's the Anuswara, a subdotted M, before a vowel. Normally, you do not have that. In Sanskrit, you could not have it. It would have to be a straight ma, maggama, maggamapasato. In Pali poetry, you have the option either to have this as an ordinary M, in which case it would be maggamappa, maggamapasato, maggam, or maggam, I'm exaggerated, maggam appasato. You were allowed to make it anuswara to lengthen that vowel. And you will very often find that in Pali poetry. I would say it's purely a matter of the poetic meter. It has no grammatical significance at all. If this had been written with an ordinary M, which in prose it would have been, there's no difference in meaning. Purely a matter of poetic meter, as I say. So, all of those who wished, anybody else who hasn't had a chance to recite, wishing to recite, now's your chance. Otherwise, we'll wind up. Okay, then. So, we do stop share. Okay. So there we are. Thank you all very much for joining me. And as usual, hopefully I will see you in a week's time, and some of you a little bit later this afternoon. Okay, and with apologies for the kind of truncated things, as I say, non mea culpa on that occasion. Okay, thank you all then. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Also, thank you.
Goodbye then. Thank you.
Next week is 1 hour difference for us, sir.
I'm sorry, say again?
For the next week, I think 1 hour difference, not 2
Oh,
hours.
yeah, you're right. Yes, thank you for the reminder. Yes, because our clocks go this coming Sunday. Our clocks go forwards one hour.
Yes,
That's correct. Thank you for the reminder.
Then Mandara won't get problem.
Yes, you're right. Thank you then. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.